Alright, welcome back to week 12 of Computers in the Studio. In the previous video, we went over animation presets, and this time we'll be looking at animation directly through the Layers panel. So, what I want you all to do is, after you've completed your exercises, remove them remove them from visibility, and then what I want you to do is hit Command T, and we're just going to type out another text, a fresh text without any sort of animation on it whatsoever. And so we kind of went over it slightly in the previous video, right near the end. If you look at your layer for text and then hit on the text layer underneath, sublayer underneath the text layer, you'll see that there are a bunch of options that you can then animate. And so from this, we're going to look specifically at this kind of right arrow that then says animation. And from this, you'll see that there are a lot of presets and properties that you can then change about the text itself. And so, for example, I'm going to maybe do just fill color because I think that's actually pretty easy. And so what it'll do is, now you'll see that the color has turned to red, right? And I could, for example, maybe change the fill color over time. So I'm going to make a keyframe. And then by the end of this, which I'm going to do it maybe 3 seconds, I'm going to have the color maybe be, white. And so now I have this property of the text that's being changed over time. But as shown, you can also have it, and maybe more complexly, you can actually change using this thing called a range selector how and when certain parts of this text are being affected by the properties. So, for example, I can make it so that only 2 letters are affected, or I can change this over time. So I can maybe have it start at 0, and then line up specifically with my color property, and then change to 100. So kind of goes and then comes back since I have this keyframe. Or I can have it, if I remove the keyframe that turns it back to white, it will simply just change to red. Okay? You can add more than just one property at any given time. I would suggest when you do that you add it through this add function underneath the animator one. Whenever you add an animation to a text, it'll generally create an animator that then houses all of the different properties that you're animating within this specific layer. So if I hit and add, you'll see that now I can select a property to change, right, or a selector, and I can, for example, now do position. And so I'm going to maybe move this a little farther up just to start, and then from this, I'm then going to hit on this keyframe, line it up with the change in color, and I'm going to change the vertical so that it maybe falls all the way down to the bottom. And so what you'll see is they slowly fall one by one thanks to that range selector being changed, right? I can then keep adding to this as well. So maybe if I also wanted to, I could change maybe the rotation. And so it starts off with 0, and maybe by the end of the 3 seconds, they're all rotated slightly. Okay, and then what I can also do is I can offset it. So what offsetting means is it changes where the start point is. So if I, for example, don't want it to, if I don't want it to start right at the beginning, I could maybe change it to something maybe between 25. And what you'll see now is that it totally misses the entire first letter because it's been offset by about 25%. I could also maybe change the offsets. So if I remove the properties from the end range selector, and maybe set it to 25, I could then set this to 0, add a keyframe so that it starts here, and at 3 seconds, change it to 100. And so what you'll see happen now is that it's going through the letters because my range selector is set to only cover one letter, but it's being offset through the entire animation. Okay? So I'm going to quickly change this back so that it starts at 0 with the range selector. It ends at 100. And the final thing I'm going to show in this video is that you can actually also add masks. So I'm going to select this text. I'm going to click on my shape tool and make sure that your text is selected, otherwise the mask won't happen. And I'm going to drag out a mask. And so now, actually I'm going to drag out a thinner mask. And so now what you'll see happen is the text kind of falls into the frame. And if you wanted to maybe move a little quicker, you can also make the animation shorter. So instead of 3 seconds, what if I made it maybe 1 second? And then now maybe moves a little more smoothly. Okay? So that's it for this initial video on just the basic options within the animator functionality within the text options in After Effects. In the next video, we'll be exploring the slightly more advanced options that this animator allows. Please check Canvas for your exercise and see you all in the next video.